Welcome back to another episode of Kicking It with Coach Red, where we bring you all the news, stories, takes, and opinions about your favorite teams from the Pacific Northwest, from the good to the bad to the Mariners.
The sweet, sweet Mariners. That's all I got for them today.
They're they're a lot more manly Mariners, a lot more Dan the manly Mariners after a weekend tilt versus the Giants. Usually Giants are a big team, but I think I think one squad came out on top.
Yeah.
But before we dive into that, why don't I tell you a little bit about us? If you're looking for a guy that is going to be precise with his breakdowns, just like you will get precision advice from the Mariners' new hitting coach, if Edgar Martinez. If you're looking for a guy like that, you're looking for a guy like me, your boy, Coach Red. You can find me on X at the real Coach Red, on Instagram at the real underscore Coach Red, TikTok at the real Coach Red. Also, find the show over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, and leave a comment or two. And if you're looking for a guy, maybe a Christopher Negron type guy, just wondering when he's going to get his shot to shine, but you get usurped by Dan Wilson. And I don't know if that's good or it's bad, but you'll be the judge on your takes from Cain.
Yeah, I'm Kane. You can find me over on Twitter at Kane2406, over on TikTok, Kane0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. Follow us. Do it, freaking do it.
Well, before we go too much further, let's talk about the Mariners' winning percentage because we haven't done that in a while. They're at 0.504. So we call it 50%. They are 4% below their season goal.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't think we're going to touch on any of the road trip
We're
in this
not
one because we
because
kind of talked about it in the last episode. They went 1-8 on the road, was not great. The only Randy Arozarena went like 1 for 20 something with 18 strikeouts. Not great.
no, we already talked about that. Let's get to Friday night. Game one of the series. Kane him with that score
6-5 Mariners.
in 10 innings.
Yes, in 10 innings. The Leo Rivas game.
In this game, you had Luis Castillo on the bump versus Birdsong, I believe.
Yeah.
And the Mariners, in true Mariners form, had trouble getting hits for a while during this game. Started off pretty slow. Uh, the Giants jumped out to a lead. The home run ball was really was snake bitten for Luis Castillo in this game. I think he gave
Yep.
up all 5 runs, and all 5 of the runs came on home runs. Start off with
Yes.
home run to Lamont Wade. You throw in, I think, was it
Michael Conforto
Seattle's own Michael Conforto?
and Helio Ramos.
Yeah,
Absolutely crushed the ball over Edgar's Cantina.
yeah, and then someone else absolutely crushed ball. His name was Luke Rayleigh.
Yeah, dude, Luke Rayleigh is slowly becoming one of my favorite Mariners.
He's just very
Um,
strong.
he's very strong and he's very fast. He looks like he was built on a farm. The dude is just insane. And
And
then
you
it
saw the
really
return
came.
of Julio Rodriguez in the field.
Yes, you did. And then the eighth inning happened where the Mariners got 6 consecutive singles, baby. Love to see it. Super
Tied the game
great.
up 5-5, and then you go into extra innings. While in extra innings, Julio makes a pretty impressive diving catch for his real first highlight since being back in the field. And then I think it was Justin Turner was supposed to start the inning at second. Demo comes in. You got Josh Rojas who strikes out. Demo straight steals third.
Yep.
And then Luis.
It was a 2-2 pitch. He fouled the ball off that was high and away to
Yeah,
Leo
why did I say Luis?
Rivas.
I meant Leo.
and then he threw him down and away. Leo Rivas just threw the head of the bat, got a single up the middle for the walk-off win. It was super great to see. Dan Wilson gets his first managerial win. And what I guess we can touch on it since we're talking about it. What'd you think of the first post-game presser from Dan the Man Wilson?
I mean, it is what it is. I stayed on to watch it. There was nothing earth shattering there. Just wanted to see how he would handle some of those questions. There were some questions that I had during the game that didn't necessarily uh, fall on Dan Wilson's shoulders, but I saw Randy Arozarena look a little lackluster with his effort in left field.
Yeah,
Ball that I think he could have caught that resulted in a double. Um, wasn't super stoked about that, and a couple of his at bats were subpar. Really want him to get going, and I think that the walk off helped. And then you roll into Saturday, and you've got a fun matchup, right? A very fun matchup. You have George Kirby, you have Blake Snell, you've got the outfield that you've envisioned. You have Robles, Julio, and Rosarena, and you had it for a grand total of 3 outs.
yeah, because
Robles gets was trying to bunt, gets hit in the hand, and has a finger contusion. And I'll say this: Luke Rayleigh coming in with an 0-2 count, left on left, actually was pretty solid. Almost gets knocked, but the Mariners were being no hit through 5 innings in this game, and we're tied 2-2. They really extended Blake Snell. You saw what they did against the bullpen in game one. You were hoping that an extra dose of this bullpen again because he was out after 3 innings.
yeah, he was.
I expected them to really get the ball rolling. It just never really materialized in this game for them.
No, they only had 4 hits on the day on 3 runs, and the only other time they scored was Randy hit into a fielder's choice, and yeah, so they just they
And
weren't
Randy's
hitting
field
the.
of choice, he barely beat out the throw to first.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they reviewed it,
They
and
did.
Dan Wilson got his first
Challenge win.
review. Yeah, so but they did lose 4-3. I mean, what can you do? It's just tough when the bats when the opposite team has 11 hits and you have four and you had the bases loaded and you guys couldn't get a single hit. So not
Yeah,
very good. Not
not good.
very cash money.
No, but a little bit more cash money was Brian Wu on
Oh,
Sunday.
can we just talk about how excellent Brian Wu has been on the year so far?
Yeah,
I
like when he gave
mean,
up that 2 run dinger. After that, he was lights out.
still what, 7 innings?
7 full. How many punchies did he finish with?
Uh, 7. I'll take that every day out of my. Well, I think they even bumped him to like 4 starter now.
Well, he's just gonna pitch where he's gonna pitch, right?
Yeah, he's been fantastic. I mean, longevity is what you wanted out of him, especially coming back from the injury. And this is 3 straight outings of him going 7 innings.
I believe it's 4. The other thing that you throw in there is I saw something because that was his 16th start on the year. Granted, some of his short starts were shortened due to things just acting up or not feeling right, where he was absolutely dominant in those games. But he has the lowest ERA for a Mariners pitcher in his first 16 starts to a season at right around 2, like
Mhm.
bottom edge of 2, like 2.03, I believe is the number I saw on that. And he looked good. And you had a Mariners team that you had Luke Rayleigh was supposed to start in this game. He gets stretched. Victor Robles not available. Julio's DHing for you. You had to do some stuff, but Dill Moore gets inserted into the top of this lineup and is a catalyst. He steals 3 bases in this game. He puts
He
himself
was
in a position.
electric. And that was my dark horse to what was it, 30 stolen bases on the year?
That was my pick.
I said that somebody was a dark horse.
Yeah, but that was my pick.
Hey, you just might get it because Julio's hurt.
Yeah. And the Mariners did what they needed to do to win this game. And
Yep.
they Friday night was the first time that the Mariners won when the Astros had lost in almost a month. So
Yes.
you've gained a little bit of ground going into the start of today. They're down 4 games in the division, and I think it's like 5.5 in the wild card. And it's going to be an uphill battle. Well, your best shot's going to be at the division, I think, just because the wild card is tough. The Central is way better than expected. The East, you knew that there were going to be some beasts in the East, but you're coming into a stretch right now. And I was talking to a good buddy of mine about this. Houston stretch is tough. They've got a very difficult stretch. The Mariners outside of the Astros have one series against a team with a winning record, and that's against the Yankees outside of the Astros. They've got a shot. You had Houston just wrap up with Baltimore. They're playing Philly. I think they've got Kansas City still on the docket coming up. So there's
Yep.
some tough matchups. But the problem has been, and this is what he pointed out, yeah, that's fine and well, but the Mariners shouldn't lose their series to the Tigers and the Pirates and the Angels earlier in the year. You've got opportunities to go out and show up and show out, and you're going to need the Mariners to do that during the stretch run.
Yeah, and the thing that one of the things I saw is that like their winning percentage against teams over 500 was very good. And then the winning percentage against teams that are under 500 is just atrocious this year. And it's just a playing down or up below opponents' levels, right? Yeah, you faced Tariq Skubal twice in a week practically.
It was
And
twice in a week.
yeah, but like the Tigers aren't very good, and I'm pretty sure they put 15 up on us that day.
They did.
Yeah, so it's just tough to see them do bad against bad teams.
Phillies winning extras, so Mariners have a chance to make up some ground. Currently down to the Rays right now, but this is a game you got to win.
Yep, must win game. It feels like every game's a must win game at this point.
All right, Kane, let's go to picks to click. So where we were sitting at, um, you had picked Cal Raleigh. I had picked Randy Rosarena, and Cal Raleigh did some stuff, and Randy didn't do a lot. He did a little bit more over the weekend, but over that long roadie, he was atrocious. So
Yes.
that brings you up to even with me. We are back just clawing tooth and nail at one another for that lead. Kane, who is your pick to click for this week?
I am gonna go with Jorge Polanco. The stick has been there. It's starting to get back to what we think it can be. So I expect him during this homestand to just continue and be great and just try and get base hits, man. So really all we need. We don't need all this crushing and home runs and all that. Just base hits to get runs in. I just think that his swing has looked a lot crisper lately and a lot more on time. I just expect him to blow up. So, Coach Red, who's your pick to click?
Luke
I like
Rayleigh
it.
with
Go ahead.
Justin Turner. You know, started off a little hot once he got with
Go
the
back.
team. And Robles cooled down a little bit with Robles dealing with the finger, Julio dealing with the ankle still. I think that he's going to get a couple games in the field, then a game at DH because you're going to need him in the lineup. Um, First base in an outfield spot is kind of open for Luke to get some play. And I think that he's earned that playing time over Dom Canzone as a lefty bat in the outfield. And plus he's going
Yes.
to play first base when you've got a righty on the bump. So I think that he's going to have the opportunity to get some play. He mashed some balls. He's been playing plus defense recently. And I felt his at bats have been more complete. You're
Yes.
not seeing the 0-3 strikeouts like you were seeing first stretch in time. He's a tough out right now.
Yeah, and dude, underrated against lefties. Let's be honest. He's very underrated against lefties.
I think he's rated appropriately, if we're being honest.
I don't know. I think you need to have him in there. I think he's an everyday type of player now. I think he's earned that.
I think that if you have a healthy Robles, that I would not have him in the lineup.
Fair enough.
I would not.
All right.
I would much rather like as much as it pain. I would much rather have Mitch Haniger in against lefty,
Yeah. All
even
right.
though his splits are reversed right now. Mitch just brings something to an at bat, especially in winning time, in clutch time, where more often than not, I like his at bats a little bit more.
Fair enough. So we got Luke Rayleigh versus Jorge Polanco.
Trying to go back to
Sorry.
Cal Raleigh again, go
Yeah,
back to the well one too
I
many times.
I just always got Big Dumper on the mind.
So with the changes, Polanco,
Oh, baby, pick to click off the foul pole.
instant gratification for Kane. Just wait for Nuke Rayleigh to blast a 3-run, put you right out of your misery. So one thing that I do want to talk about, and it's going to be all speculation for the most part. You make a coaching change in season. You got rid of every hitting coach that you've had associated with this team. You bring back an Edgar, and he's committed to the rest of this year. I don't think he wants to go through the grind of another full season. I think he's a little bit happier with being retired.
Yeah.
So you're at least going to have that position open.
Yes.
Dan Wilson, by everything we've seen and heard, he's the manager next year for this team at a minimum. So what I want to talk about is, do you think that I want to talk about 4 guys in particular that are on this staff. Do you think that they will be with the team next year? And the first guy I want to start with is probably going to be, I'm going to start easier and work my way to a little bit harder decisions potentially.
Okay.
First guy I want to talk about is Perry Hill. Infield coach is a maestro. You've seen what he's been able to do with JP over time. You've seen that Polanco's numbers had regressed, and as the years gone on, he's looked better and better at second base. Rojas, what he's been able to do at third base and make that transition to full time. I think this team really likes him as a coach. Do you think that Perry Hill is back next year?
I would think so, right? Because he's been a part of the organization for a while, and I mean Dan's been a part of the organization a while too. So,
and that's the thing I will say is Dan Wilson, it's not like he's a total outside hire. He's a guy that's been on special assignment, roving instructor. He's part of the broadcast team on Tuesdays ever since Beaner left, and we talked about that. But he's been around this team. So I think that in a position that's not extremely prominent, I do think that Perry Hill will be back. You know, he even talks about, Goldie loves talking about the F's of Perry Hill's fundamentals for fielding. And I think that Dan Wilson's really, really can appreciate what he can do. And I think that Perry would be a guy that would stick around for this squad.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It can only go up, especially when you get this younger talent that we're seeing in the farm too. Get them up to the big leagues, and we'll see what they can do too.
All right, the next guy that I think could potentially be an easier choice, I want to go pitching coach. Woodward, baby.
I think he comes back 100% because this pitching staff loves him. Loves him, and Cal loves him too.
I think the only way that he's not back is if he somehow offered a managerial job.
Yeah.
Why would you want to leave with your 4 younger starters? And you get the likes of Matt Brash.
Yeah.
Back next year.
You with Gregory Santos and Mooney.
Yeah.
I'm already counting Santos out.
Colin Snyder, who's been a maven.
Austin Voth. I
Boston
don't know. I
Boston one
think
year deal.
Boston won here.
But I just think there's too much potential there for him to continue going, keep that continuity. Obviously, Cal loves him. And you look at Dan being a former catcher, right? This guy deals with pitchers, and I think that he's got a big affinity for Woodworth.
Yes, I think that's a 100% logical thing to happen. There would be it would just be dumb to not bring him back, right?
All right. Next guy I'm going to discuss is Manny Acta. I
I don't
thought
think
that
so.
Manny Acta would have been a candidate to replace Scott Service. He's got time as a manager for Cleveland in the past. He's been with this team for an extended period of time, keeping continuity on staff. Obviously, you would have then had to get a new third base coach for the rest of this year, but I don't know how that move is going to sit with him. And does he have aspirations to be a manager again at the major league level?
I don't think that Maniac would be back. Um, because it's a telling sign, right? They didn't go to him instantly when you thought, hey, he's managed big clubs before and all this nonsense. I just think getting passed up on this opportunity takes his talents elsewhere. I really do.
I agree. I'm in the same spot with you on that, just because I would feel a little bit disrespected.
Slighted, yeah.
Yeah, I would not love that decision. Now I'm going to throw another curveball at you. Is there someone that you would target outside, a name out there to be your third base coach? Because I've got one.
I mean, I don't pay attention to
Joey
much.
Cora, bring back all the 95 players.
Sure.
Nostalgia. He's already rocking the third base coach. I'm not sure if I think it's with Miami right now where he's at. I think he has been with the White Sox as well. I mean, Joey Cora is a guy that's been on some lists to potentially be a coach. Or if you want to go a little bit older and he's open to playing, give me Omar Vizquel. I'd love Omar Vizquel to get back with the Mariners. I love that guy. That dude was a magician.
So I take it uh the hardest person to decide would be Negro.
Negron's going to be the toughest. The reason I think it's the toughest is because he played for the Dodgers, played for the Mariners. He had a little bit more than a cup of coffee with the Mariners and then decided that he wanted to get into coaching. He started out, I believe, in double A, was the manager there for 1 year, and then got promoted the next year to on the big league staff coaching first base. This is
Right.
a guy that I thought was going to be a riser. And this is a guy that I also could have seen where I think that Maniacta probably would have felt better if it was him. The younger generation, this is my guy. We've worked together. Gonna have to try and fill that position on field throughout the rest of this year. But this is another guy that I think that might take his talents to maybe find somewhere that's got an opening, maybe for a third base type coach and getting a little bit closer to that coaching seat.
Yeah, I can say that he probably will go elsewhere as well. And it's really gonna, I think, miss the presence in the dugout with him gone because the players absolutely adore him. And he is such a player's coach. And I just think that it would be very bad not to have him here next year.
I think that for me, it's a little bit tougher than that. What I really want to know is you're going to have to see how they play down this stretch. You're going to have to see what happens next year. If Jerry Dipoto is going to be, I think that you don't make this move to keep Dan Wilson past this year if Jerry Dipoto's out. I think that he's got that job security. And a lot of it's due to the way that he's been able to draft and develop. He's struggled to find hitters that could complement this team at the big league level. But what they've done with the pitching staff and where they've drafted, you're hoping that some of these guys potentially tail into next year can come in and contribute. If Jerry is here long term, I would love to know really what the plan is and what the length of contract is going to be for Dan Wilson, what that looks like. How long does he want to be a big league manager? Because I could very much see this as Dan taking Chris Negron under his wing and basically having him as a manager in waiting title. Eventually, if Manny moves, he moves to third base, he gets closer to that manager spot. And then when the time comes, if Jerry's still in charge, that's his guy, right? It's a
Yeah.
Jerry guy. And it could be interesting if you're looking at Dan Wilson as the very long term
Mhm.
person. I could see him going to a place where there could be a little bit less continuity, a little bit of manager on a hot seat to eventually get pushed up that chain to be the manager of insert team here.
Right. Um. Yeah. I know that they've talked on the broadcast and talked to Dan Wilson and said he's been thinking about this for a long time, all that, and that's fine and all. And my biggest question is, how long has this been in the talks, right? Outside of just last week.
I don't think it's been there because you look as early as last year you didn't make the playoffs, but a couple years ago you did. And
Right.
the 2 years ago, Scott's a finalist and probably I think he came in second in coach of the year. And the year before that, he was third. So you've got a guy that's a manager of the year candidate, you know, 2 and 3 years ago. I don't think this has been on the table for the longest time. I did see some things get reported over the weekend that a lot of guys in MLB circles are surprised that Dan Wilson has not been an actual full-time coach so far. His acumen for the game, his respectedness around the league is very high. And you can tell I rag on him for what he was giving us as a former
As
player
a
color
fan.
guy.
Yeah.
But as a manager, I don't mind if he's a little bit dry. I want him to be analytical. I want him to be precise. It doesn't make for good TV, but hopefully it makes for a better product on the field because at the end of the day, you're going to be hamstrung in one regard or another, whether it's management, whether it's what they're willing to do, what prospects they're willing to give up, all these different factors that play in. The Mariners
Mhm.
are never going to be a top 5 payroll in Major League Baseball. They're going to have to get creative. They're going to have to do things, and you're going to have to put together a squad and manage that squad in a way that you can get the most out of them day in, day
That's
out.
true. Yep.
And if Dan Wilson proves he can do that, great.
I'm
But
here
I
for
do want to
it.
see what the cast of characters are going to be around him. I'm going to love to see where they go for a hitting coach. I mean, I doubt that that's going to be the most glamorous job for anyone in the league, right? You have these players. You saw the regression that's happened this year with some guys that aren't playing up to their baseball card. It's going to be a tough sell. That's why I do think that you might have to pull on some of your nostalgic Mariners ties and really get some guys in here that have some experience that have either been a part of this coaching staff before or have a very good personal relationship with Dan Wilson.
Yeah.
Dude,
I
Nelson
agree.
Cruz,
Oh,
batting
dude,
coach.
we yeah. Mariners Hall of Famer too? Hell yeah.
Not Mariners Hall of Famer yet, but just he goes, all right, guys, this is the boomstick, and we just go boom. And that's all you do. That's how he does it. That's his teaching.
Dude,
And then they just
bro.
start all hitting 40 homers a year.
Dude, that would be Cal Raleigh. They would be like passing the torch.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
So we'll see. There's going to be a lot of
It's gonna be
uncertainty
a
that
lot
we
of
weren't
it's gonna be a
prepared
lot of
for.
criticism for the rest of the year, right? We still have a little bit over 30 games to see how he can kind of navigate the end of the season and try to see if we can propel this team into the playoffs.
Well, and he kind of said that in his first presser when you really look at it. He talked about, yeah, I'm going to be evaluated on this, but it's a small time frame. You're in the middle of the season. There's not a ton of things that they can go out and do. He's going to work on some of the approaches, especially with the at bats. He knows that he has a strong pitching staff. He's going to try and get wins
Yep.
as best he can. But you do need a longer time, especially for a guy that is as well respected in this Mariners clubhouse. Cal Raleigh said it before. Dan Wilson was instrumental in his progression when he was in the minors.
Right.
This guy's
So
been working with Harry Ford, right? Another top flight prospect for you. So being able to have that, and he's a baseball guy and he's a Mariners guy through and through.
yeah.
So if it starts getting ugly, the nostalgia is going to wear off real quickly because we're starved, right? Like I'm tired. I was talking to that same buddy where we were talking about this nostalgia and all this, but I said, hey, the Mariners have been mediocre, and he's no, they've been bad. They've made one playoff appearance in this long, and I'm like, yeah, in that regards, it was bad. But this is a team that, earlier this year, over their last 1,000 games, which is 10 years, just so like right, just under a 10-year span, we're 500. That's mediocrity at its highest.
Yeah.
And I need to see more. Us as fans got a taste of what playoff baseball is. We had that excitement. You still have roughly the same core with a few pieces maneuvered around. And I think that you've set yourself up for the future with the Randy Arozarena deal, with the
Yes.
Robles extension, where worst case he's one of the best fourth outfielders in the league.
Right.
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 You've got JP who's rehabbing right now. You do have pieces like Rojas that can be sneaky good. If you can make a play for a third base, he can be a super utility like Dylan Moore can be for you, right? So you've
Yeah.
got some of these pieces that can work, but what are we going to do to augment that? How can we be consistently in that playoff picture and not have to be scraping by for a third wild card when you can't make the playoffs and you're expected to be a good team and you are fighting for the third wild card? Maybe you do just go all in for a year or two like the Rangers did. I would much rather win one World Series and suck for the next couple of years than not win any and be pretty okay-ish.
Right. And just be on a roller coaster of emotions throughout the year, every single year. I mean, that's what it's been, right? I mean, last year we missed the playoffs in the final game of the season. I mean, you can't make this shit up. It's just a bit that they keep coming back to time and time again, right? Oh, there you go. Oh, there you go. Sorry. I thought Luke Rayleigh just went deep too. Um, but like you said, it's mediocrity at its finest, right? I mean, you had the shortened COVID year where they were a good baseball team and
Mm-hmm.
still didn't make a playoff spot. Like they've been, I think one of the biggest mistakes of Jerry's GM career so far is, hey, Carlos Santana was that big clubhouse guy. Like me and you both wanted him back.
Agreed.
We wanted him back, and I think you know where things would have been now if we would have had Carlos Santana, right? With that relationship in helping Julio along as well, right? Like I don't know. I just think that they got to get the money, right? They got to get the checkbooks opened, and we got to try to convince somebody to come here, or at least trade and make it just a big splash because they need something.
Yeah. And we've got to convince people to go follow us on social media. So if you do, the Mariners might win a lot
They
more.
could they could win a lot more, and we would really want that.
Yeah. Just give it a try. What's the worst that can happen? You can give me, you can find me, your boy Coach Red, on X at the real Coach Red, on Instagram at the real underscore Coach Red, TikTok at the real Coach Red. Also find the show over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, and leave a comment or two. Kane, where you at?
Find me over on Twitter, Kane2406, TikTok, Kane0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. Follow us. Do it, freaking do it.
And as always, stay fresh.
Peace.
What?
Stay fresh, peeps.
Okay.
Sorry.
Peace.